It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Your emails as well at randykabc@gmail.com. And if you want to get the podcast of this show, like an episode that's not about fires, well, go to kabc.com/newsblitz or search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. Now, usually on Fridays, it's when we take things a little easier. We do happy hour, but we'll get back to that next week. There's just too much to be covering when it comes to the incredible devastation that has happened to Los Angeles. I mean, this is the most destructive week I've ever remembered in my life of living here, born and raised in Los Angeles. And that includes the week of the 94 earthquake. This feels more devastating than that. It is more devastating than that. I mean, we've had over 12,000 structures destroyed in the last 4 days. The latest numbers, the Palisades fire, at least 5 deaths, 5,300 structures destroyed, 21,000 acres burned, 60,000 still under evacuation orders. They are at 8% containment, so that is good news, at least for that fire. But when you see the images, the Palisades is gone, and from everything you're hearing on the ground, it doesn't look like it's going to be coming back anytime soon. Just as destructive, the Eaton fire, which has devastated parts of Pasadena and Altadena. 6 deaths reported, 7,000 structures damaged, destroyed, almost 14,000 acres burned. They're at 3% containment. Only 3,200 now are under evacuation orders. So they are starting to get a handle on that fire. And at least some good news to report is some of the smaller fires are on their way of being completely out. The Hearst fire up in the Sylmar area, we are at, I think, 50% containment for that one. It's down to only 700. It's only at 70% containment now. 771 acres burned. All evacuations have been lifted. There was a big scare this morning because there was yet another one that sparked up in Granada Hills. That one, thankfully, did not turn into anything too big. That could have been a bad spot. You're talking about what right between the 118 and the 5 freeway, but they kept that one down to, I think, just 19 acres. The Kenneth fire, they had incredible progress on that one. That, of course, is the one that shut down the 101 freeway yesterday in the West Hills area. 1,000 acres burned, 35% containment. No structures have been damaged or destroyed. Mandatory evacuations are lifted, but that one they're investigating is arson because of what happened yesterday. Well, in the middle of all the insanity of the giant plumes of smoke and people getting the erroneous warnings on your phone that say everyone in the county has to evacuate now for the West Hills fire, there were residents of Woodland Hills that happened to see a man holding a blowtorch trying to torch a Christmas tree that was on somebody's curb. And that's when they made a citizen's arrest called LAPD Topanga Division, and they arrested someone on suspicion of arson. For what ended up happening with that, let's go to this morning's press conference. Here is LAPD Assistant Chief Dominic Choi.
I have a number of important updates for all of you today, and I'm going to start by an arrest that was made late yesterday afternoon. So yesterday afternoon, the Kenneth fire started at the border of West Hills and the city of Los Angeles and Ventura County. At 4:32 p.m., we received a 911 call that a suspect was attempting to light a fire in the community of Woodland Hills and was being detained by residents.
Yeah, the residents see anybody trying to light a fire in this day and age with everything that's gone on in the last 4 days, they're not putting up with that.
Officers from LAPD's Topanga area responded and took that suspect into custody. And once we learned that this suspect was a possible arson suspect, our Major Crimes Division responded to Topanga Division, along with Ventura County sheriffs, who was a lead in the Kenneth fire investigation. But they responded, they interviewed this suspect.
So far, so good. Looks like we caught one of these people. We don't know how some of these fires started. There are some initial reports coming out about some possible sparks in SoCal Edison equipment that might be the Eaton fire. There's some report from the Daily Mail about somebody using gasoline to light a fire in the Palisades before that exploded. We've had 2 different arson arrests, so it's definitely possible. And then there's the homelessness aspect as well, and this man was apparently a transient.
After the interview and additional investigative steps, looking at some additional evidence that was present, they made the determination that there was not enough probable cause to arrest this person person on arson or suspicion of arson.
Wasn't he holding a torch?
And therefore, this person was arrested on a felony probation violation.
Was he released?
This investigation is ongoing, however, and I'd like to thank those community members that were involved in this and helping us bring this person to our attention, and so we can have an ongoing investigation.
So they're still looking into that one, apparently, but there wasn't enough evidence to tie that guy to this fire. We'll see what happens there, but we're definitely following that. The most insane thing in the last 24 hours has been the city and county's ever-changing passing of the buck and weird responses to the fact that every single resident in Los Angeles County received emergency alerts that were not meant for them. 3 in an hour. And one of them was a take backseat. Oh, I'm so sorry. We didn't mean that for you. Freaking a lot of people out, getting some people to just straight up turn off their emergency alerts because, you know, there's a lot of panic. My wife was going out to a lunch and she calls me, do I need to turn around? Do we need to go evacuate? And I look at, I'm like, no, you don't have to. So when we aired the press conference yesterday at 5 o'clock, and by the way, there is supposed to be another one at 5:30, but they never start on time. So we'll see if it happens during this show, we'll play you some of it. But yesterday, nobody addressed the emergency alert until we get to the question and answer portion where it finally was addressed thanks to an intrepid member of the press.
Question right here in the black and then to Dave.
Mayor, are you able to address the false emergency alert that went out? Who authorized that, and is that something we should be concerned about moving forward?
Yeah.
I have walking up our director of Office of Emergency Services for the county. He'll address that.
Okay, he's going to address it. This was yesterday at 5:30.
Did you get that before?
We want to know who authorized it and if this is something we should be worried about moving forward as well.
You know, the fact that they sent the wrong email out and the wrong message out and alerted so many people's phones. We have so many reports throughout the day of even more of that happening when it's not supposed to.
As far as authorization, so when Unified Command determines a location is going to be issued as an evacuation order or an evacuation warning, the incident commanders designate that. That then gets communicated to the Los Angeles County's Office of Emergency Management and the Emergency Operations Center, who actually do the function of, through a technological system, a software system, issuing that.
So he issues it.
There was an error within that system that went beyond the zone that was designated. So the correct zone was designated as authorized by the incident commanders on what was supposed to be a zone for the Kenneth Fire.
So somebody hit the wrong button. Send this out to just zone 1 or send this out to all zones. That's the excuse they gave last night. This morning, the press conference actually started with this guy, Kevin McGowan. He's the head of the Office of Emergency Management for the county, and he has a very different story.
We're aiming for conciseness. So we're going to start off with the LA County Director of the Office of Emergency Management, Kevin McGowan.
Thank you, Helen. Hi, my name is Kevin McGowan. I'm the Director of the Office of Emergency Management for Los Angeles County. There is an extreme amount of frustration, anger, fear with regards to the erroneous messages that have been being sent out through the wireless emergency alert system.
All right, we're going to do a hat-in-hand apology here. You're going to tell us we were wrong. We're so sorry. I will be stepping down. Somebody else should be doing this because obviously I shouldn't be in charge.
Across LA County. I can't express enough how sorry I am for this experience. First of all, I want to clarify. This is not human-driven.
What? What does that mean?
This is not human-driven. There is no one sitting at a desk right now initiating emergency alerts.
Shouldn't there be? Shouldn't we have somebody deciding when these things get alerted and what, it's all automated? How exactly does that make sense?
I want to restate that. Right now, as these alerts are being issued, they are not being activated or initiated by a person. This is my top priority. I am working all hands on deck with
That's a cliche.
With the Federal Emergency Management Agency's Integrated Public Alert and Warning Team. We have every technical specialist working to resolve this issue and to find the root cause.
So they don't understand how the software works, and apparently the software is broken and it hasn't been fixed, and there have been even more erroneous alerts going out. I haven't personally gotten any outside of that 3, but that was pretty scary that day.
I implore everyone to not disable the messages on your phone. This is extremely frustrating, painful, and scary, but these alert tools have saved lives during this emergency.
Yes, so we should have faith in them that they're accurate and the people behind them know what they're doing. That's a big problem. You are the ones losing the public's trust on this.
Not receiving an alert can be a consequence of life and death. As we continue to work on the root cause,
Don't use that term. That's a loaded term, kid.
I ask everyone that gets an alert to verify if they are in an evacuation warning or order to go to alertla.org.
What if you don't have internet? What if you've got no reception? What if the only thing that went through is that alert? Then what?
lacounty.gov/emergency or dial 211 for assistance.
So the official line from the county, and he gets his butt kicked for this later by Catherine Barger, is double check when we send you an emergency alert that it's real.
The mapping is accurate on where evacuation warnings and orders exist.
So that part of the software works, just not the part where we alert the right people for it.
Again, this is my
We got people in Orange County that were notified.
This is my top priority. This is the top priority of my partners at the state and at FEMA with the public alert and warning tool to resolve this issue as quickly as possible and identify the root cause. Thank you.
There's 3 times he said root causes, so go ahead and drink. It's Friday. Later on in the press conference, Karen Bass got asked about the false alarms. Let's see what she had to say.
My question is for Mayor Bass. Jonathan Migliotti with CBS News.
Oh, this is the guy she got into the fight with the other day.
Yesterday, you asked for the public's patience as you assess the response. As you well know, then millions of people receive false alarms. It's been acknowledged here in this room that many may now be deactivating their alerts on their phones. I have heard from many people who are ignoring them altogether. We have red flag warnings still in effect. They will resume again next week. There is no rain in the forecast. What are you doing at this point to earn back people's trust and to make sure these mistakes don't happen again?
It hasn't been a very good response from the Karen Bass world or the Gavin Newsom world. Every time they open their mouths, they're looking worse. Karen Bass not being here, having to come back from Africa didn't look good. This didn't look good. And her getting testy with reporters does not look good. The last thing we need is a whole bunch of politicians patting themselves on the back when 12,000 homes are gone.
Well, first of all, I think that was addressed at the beginning of the press conference.
Oh, so you didn't even want to answer, how do you want to convey confidence to a system that we've all lost confidence in?
By Kevin McGowan.
I would like that from you. I don't. You're the top official here.
I want to give a shout out to the members of the press that are challenging Karen Bass, that are challenging Gavin Newsom, challenging the supervisors in these press conferences. This is a really tough situation, and these people are not being straight with us, or they're trying to make it sound better than it is. And the press is pushing back. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do.
You're the top official here.
So let me just be clear. I am going to spend every moment that I can making sure that I am in as many areas as possible,
like Ghana,
meeting and talking to residents to see what is needed in the recovery. But I also mentioned that we're moving into recovery mode at the same time.
She's not answering the question one bit.
Meaning that we want to see the city rebuilt. We want to see Los Angeles come together. Let me finish. We want to see Los Angeles come together.
I love it. 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 So the reason she said, let me finish, is because the reporter, who's hard to hear on the mic, I had to boost him. You'll hear him in a second. He starts asking the question again because she's not answering it. She's trying to answer a completely different question, and he's not letting her get away with it.
We want to see Los Angeles come together.
You are deflecting from the question. You have millions of people here who get these alerts. They are ignoring them. You still have red flag warnings in effect. There is a real threat here. What is your message to your constituents who are losing faith? You started this.
I want the residents of Los Angeles region to have faith in what we are doing 24 hours a day. I can say on behalf of our first responders, from the fire department, the police department.
Yeah, she's not answering the question again. This is specifically about your job. The firefighters are doing their job. They're trying to do their job. They have a lack of funding. They have a lack of water. The police are trying to do their job and trying to make sure nobody loots the houses that were evacuated. Your job was to correctly send out the information, and you couldn't do that. And now you won't even own up to it.
We are doing everything we can to bring the situation under control, and success has been reported. We know that we're going to have a possible increase in the force of the winds at the beginning of next week, and getting Los Angeles prepared, doing...
She's just not going to answer the question. So then I'm going to cut her off. When we come back, you're going to hear the question get raised again, this time from a reporter over at Good Day LA. And this time, Catherine Barger decides not to play along with the game that Karen Bass and this kid, Kevin McGowan, are playing. And she goes right off that this is unacceptable, because it is. Even Lindsay Horvath admitted in her speech, which was a little more relevant than it was the other day, that this was unacceptable. Now, Karen Bass can't do that.
Next, I want to express my deep frustration with the alert system that is causing confusion and additional panic for our communities at this time of extreme crisis. Whatever the cause, it is unacceptable, and it is being addressed now by the county's Office of Emergency Management, as Director McGowan described. We'll be investigating what happened, how, and why at every level in our exhaustive after-action process to ensure it is corrected.
At least she gave it a little lip service and then says, this is why we have checks and balances. We're going to hear a big fiery response to this, because what happened yesterday was unacceptable on top of so many other things, on top of Gavin faking the call to Joe Biden and Karen Bass being testy with reporters, refusing to answer questions when she was on the plane back from Dallas, back from Africa. This is a big test for a lot of our local electeds who haven't had a big test. Sure, there's big problems like homelessness, and that's an emergency, but this is a real emergency, and our local electeds are not doing a great job. 800-222-KABC is the phone number, 1-800-222-5222. If you want to comment on the fires, on the fire response, on Gavin Newsom, Karen Bass, if you happen to have lost your home, if you want to share your story, if you've been evacuated, this is your place to vent. The line is open for you right now, 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. Let's go to Michael in LA. Michael, hello.
Hey, how you doing, sir?
Doing great.
I'm one of the unhoused, and I've been unhoused for like 19 years. It's because I choose to be. But my point is, I have sympathy and empathy for all the people that lost their homes. But I wonder if any of them think about the homeless people that's on the streets, and I wonder if they feel how the unhoused and the homeless people feel now that they don't have their home. And I'm not happy that they don't have their home, but I wonder if it humbles any of them.
I mean, if you have your whole life ripped out from under you in the split second of a fire, I'm sure that changes everybody's perspective. It makes you reassess everything, what's really important. It's a life-shattering event to happen like that. So, yeah, I would imagine it has changed a whole lot of people's perspective. I mean, this week has rocked. Even if you weren't directly affected by the fire, this has changed everybody's thinking about everything. It's been such a horrific week.
Yes, it has. But I wonder if they're humbled, and if they have any sympathy for people that's homeless on the streets, that a fire didn't make them homeless. I wonder if.
Well, I think it's wrong to assume that these people didn't have that on their mind. That you're talking about some people, philanthropist people that are very generous. Just because they have homes or they're in a wealthy neighborhood doesn't mean that they're not compassionate. I can see how you can have that perspective, but yes, this can be humbling. But it's not like they were unaware of the troubles that are going on in Los Angeles just because they lived in the Palisades.
No, I never mentioned anything about wealthy people houses. You did. I'm just saying the people that lost their homes. I don't care if it was a trailer park, but I'm just saying, you brought up the wealthy people. That was not my point. But anybody
what is your point exactly?
Homeless, I pray that people are humbled and have more sympathy and empathy for the unhoused on the street. Like, I'm unhoused.
You're not going to find a city that has more empathy for the unhoused than Los Angeles, my friend. Thank you so much for the calling. Appreciate it. That was interesting. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222, whether you are housed or unhoused. You can also email us at randykabc@gmail.com and get the podcast. Search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. We are covering the devastating wildfires that have just destroyed life as we know it in Los Angeles County. 12,300 structures destroyed, 35,000 acres burned just in the last 4 days. The Eaton fire still burning big. The Palisades fire still burning big. We've got a handle on the rest of them, but boy, has this been a rough week. Let's go back to the phones, and then we'll hear Catherine Barger react to the failed emergency alert system. Let's go to Stuart in Seal Beach. Stuart, hello.
Hello, Randy. Thank you for taking my call, and thank you for addressing this issue. I'd like your opinion on the lack of water, especially since there was a reservoir that was dry with 117 million gallon capacity called the Santa Ynez Reservoir, and they had a project that was supposed to put a cover on it, and that project is what caused the reservoir to be drained. What nobody has mentioned is this project started on July 23rd, 2009, according to the LADWP website. This project was supposed to be finished by December 11th, 2012. That's 12 years ago. That reservoir which is 98% of the capacity, has been empty for water, it appears, for over 12 years. And firefighters did not have more than 3 million gallons to fight a massive fire. What's your thoughts on that?
My thought is that this is the kind of incompetence that we've come to expect from the DWP, and now we're paying for it. We have put in the budget for these kinds of infrastructure projects. We voted for water reservoirs. We want these, even when we say we're going to do something, the incompetence and the haphazardness of agencies like the DWP with no oversight from the city or the county lead to a very essential project like the one you're talking about, supposed to be done 12 years ago. That's unacceptable. The fact that that reservoir was sitting dry is unacceptable because the water should have been there. And the fact that nobody even wanted to address that fact of it until it was reported on today shows that there are so many cracks opening up about the response for this. And the firefighters tried to do everything they could to protect those homes. And the only thing we need to do is give them the tools to do it. And we did not do that.
Yes, and it endangered the firefighters' lives by not having water. I mean, you're fighting a fire and you run out of water and you're in the middle of a firestorm. To me, it's just unacceptable. I don't know where the union chiefs are on the fire department, but they should be livid that this has gone on for 12 years, as well as the homeowners who've put their life and toil for these homes to be treated like this. And there's a lot of mayors like Garcetti, Villaraigosa, and Bass that did nothing while 12 years have passed on. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's completely unacceptable. Thank you so much for the call, Stuart, and for bringing that to light. Really appreciate it. Let's go to Bill in La Cañada. Bill, hello.
Hey, Randy, do you think things would improve if Kevin McGowan, the emergency services chief, resigned?
Yes.
Okay, he says he's very sorry, and he sounds very sheepish, when he's making these apologies. So what's keeping him from resigning? This guy's got to be pulling in like $200,000 a year, 4 or 5 times what the median salary is for people. So what's stopping him from demonstrating his apology by resigning?
Oh, they don't do that. That's not how things work in Los Angeles. I mean, I don't even want to know how much he makes. I'm still freaked out about how much the new DWP manager makes, and the DWP is at the center of why we're having so many problems here. It's insanity. I'm ready to pull my hair out, but I like my hair. Bill, thank you so much for the call, buddy. Let's hear what happened this morning. I already played you when Karen Bass got asked about the false alarm, the one that Kevin McGowan says he's looking into the root causes for. And Karen Bass didn't really answer the question. And that CBS reporter, his time was up. And I love when this happens, when the press has their back, because the question was not answered. So the next person, Good Day LA, maybe they thought, this is going to be a softball. No. Bobby at Good Day LA did a great job.
Thank you, Mary Bass. One over here.
Bob DeCastro from Good Day LA, Fox 11. Just to follow up on that, because even after yesterday, that errant message was sent out to Los Angeles County, some 10 million people. Overnight, people were still receiving many messages, and we were even fielding calls from our own newsroom.
We got emails all day long and people sending screenshots of all the alerts they'd got, and they're nowhere near these zones. This is a problem.
From people as far as San Bernardino that were receiving calls. You have no idea why people are getting these alerts and being startled in the middle of the night when they're already on edge in the Inland Empire. Why has that happened? You have no idea. And you also ask that people verify and get onto a website. Not everybody has the ability to jump on a website when they're panicked to try and figure out whether or not this is an actual alert.
Thank you, and I appreciate the thoughts you're sharing and the question. I would take a second to explain how the alert system works. There's an interface, and you activate that interface with what type of an alert you're going to send, an evacuation order, an evacuation warning, and you identify a geographical area.
Yeah, this all seems pretty simple. How could you not do this correctly?
After you initiate that message package is sent into what is the Integrated Public and Alert Warning System aggregator. That then transitions, I'll call it for lack of better terms, into a cloud that connects with all of our cell service providers.
This seems needlessly complicated. We work in, I work at a radio station, and radio stations governed by the FCC send out emergency alerts through the emergency alert system, a system that's been around for nearly 100 years. And it tells us on a little squawk box when there's an alert, and we send the alert. How is it this complicated?
The root cause analysis is trying to establish where along that sequence there is an error going on. And in addition to that, it is important to understand that the cellular phone towers have different reach in how they're activating the message to the cell phone. And so it's a common phenomenon that there's a term called bleed over, where a cell phone...
It bled over to cities that were 50 miles away.
That may be in a different jurisdiction or a different area, is receiving that message from...
This was the one in West Hills, and we got a text from someone in Fullerton.
Is receiving that message from a cellular tower that may be geographically in a different space. So right now, our number one priority is to establish how we can work with in coordination with our...
We don't know how it's broken, and we don't know how to fix it.
The messages that are going out right now that are not being initiated by a human action.
Did one just go out while he was talking?
By a human action.
One just went out while he was talking.
To stop that, and then understand how that occurred.
You can't make that up. An erroneous alert went out when he was talking about how do we fix the erroneous alerts.
So that the tool can still be used for what was identified as like a critical fire weather that we're still in experiencing and will continue to experience.
So can I just follow up on that? The bottom line is we are going to.
Oh, Catherine Barger jumping in here. Let's hear what she has to say next. And if this press conference actually starts, which apparently it's not because Bass and the fire chief are fighting about the fact that the fire chief admitted on Fox 11 that the defunding did hurt them. I don't know if this press will start on time, but we'll go to it if it does. If not, you'll hear Catherine Barger showing this guy a new one who deserves it. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Karen Bass and the crew are 20 minutes late to the press conference that they called, so I don't think we're going to it anytime soon. In the meantime, let's hear Catherine Barger rip the guy that sent out all the wrong emergency alerts a new one.
Can I just follow up on that? The bottom line is we are going to drill down because I, too, got the alert. I got 2 alerts, and then I got an alert telling me to disregard the alerts. And, you know, as someone who has communities that are on edge, that are lined up, and I'm sure Mayor Gordo has the same situation going on as well, they're on pins and needles thinking that they're next. So we're drilling down right now, and the way it's described to me is there are towers that are now powering up, and it's up in this cloud. It's kind of like when you send an email and it goes into draft, and then once you hit internet, it gets sent. Similar, but my question is, why can't we turn it off? And the answers we're getting are not satisfying. I'm not making any excuses. It's unacceptable.
This is what I want to hear.
And it is frustrating because we are asking people to trust us, to believe us when we say evacuate. So if we're going to tell them to evacuate, we better make darn sure we're targeting the right people. So don't think we're taking this lightly. I'm not. And I know that my residents aren't. So I hear you loud and clear. The frustration you're hearing from me is based on the frustration I'm hearing as well from my constituents who are asking, when we get it, is it going to be legitimate? Should we listen or should we ignore or disable altogether?
That's what I wanted to hear. We'll hear more from Catherine Barger. Maybe we'll see this press conference, but I don't think it's starting until at least 6. But we're here covering the fires. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Karen Bass and the crew are now 23 minutes late to the press conference that they called to update all of you on the wildfires. I wonder if it's because they want to make sure they have unified messaging after LAFD Chief Crowley accidentally spoke the truth to Gigi Graciette on Fox 11 this morning.
Our firefighters, the community's firefighters, LAFD firefighters need to be properly funded. We need to be supported so that they can do their jobs.
Yeah, Karen Bass ain't taking that one too kindly. And there's reports coming out that Karen Bass's original proposal for cutting the budget, because we were in a budget deficit last year, was up to $49 million from the fire department, which would have included closing fire stations. That's what's going on right now with the budget deficit up in Oakland. They ended up revising that to only $17 million. But even then, they don't want to be honest about that. And yes, there was a budget deficit and they needed a whole bunch of money because we needed to start funding more LAPD classes because of the LAPD shortage, and we need to pay for bonuses to compete with other cities that were trying to compete. But there were other departments to cut from, notably the homelessness budget, which hasn't done a damn thing. So I don't think this presser is starting anytime soon, and I'm only here for 5 more minutes. So let's have some fun with that, and let's hear Catherine Barger continue to rip Kevin McGowan a new one. The guy who screwed up sending out the emergency alerts and then blamed it on the computer.
Chair Barger, the verification for people are just supposed to go on this website, find this website, and figure out if it's real.
So Bob DeCastro at Fox 11 asked, what do you think about Kevin McGowan's fix that when you get an emergency alert, you should just check the website to make sure it's accurate?
I think that's absolutely ridiculous, and I told Kevin McGowan that. To tell people to go on a website when they may not have access to an internet is absolutely absurd, and that is, quite frankly, not something that I am recommending. Obviously, for those that want to find out where...
It's our first, quite frankly, of the year!
...want to find out where the evacuation centers are, or the evacuation locations are, they can go on there, and it is an accurate map. But I'm not going to tell people, if you get the alert, go on and check. I think that we need to fix this problem so that, in fact, when an alert goes out, it is a legitimate alert that people can listen to. So I hear you. I hear that criticism. I personally, when I heard it, didn't feel that I was going to tell people, well, if you get it, just go on a website. They can, but that's not going to satisfy the frustration that people have. So I just want to make it clear to you.
I appreciate that response. A little bit of candor and a little bit of throwing somebody on their bus, not the constant thanking you for your leadership and everyone's doing such a great job, because 12,000 homes have burned down. Let's go to Bill in West LA. Bill, hello.
Hey, Randy, the problem with it is mapping of the telephone numbers and contact numbers and everything. A lot of people are using their old cell phone numbers or their old numbers, but they've moved to someplace else. Yesterday, my brother-in-law called me. He lives up in Victorville, California, and his telephone number was an Orange County area code phone number. And so what's happening is there are mapping overlaps and that don't match the property.
That's definitely one of the problems, but I think what ended up happening was they ended up sending it to every single person in the county at 4:00 yesterday for the evacuations that were in West Hills, and they got to figure that one out.
They're doing it by area codes they're doing it by area codes in the county. But a lot of people have moved to other counties, but they still have phone numbers with area codes in Los Angeles County. So
you're totally right, and we got to figure out a better system. It's 2025. Looks like the press conference is starting, but it's just with Jim McDonnell. Let's see what's going on here.
If we see you in these areas, you will be subject to arrest.
Okay, so the only people that are ready to talk are Jim McDonnell about the people violating the curfew and looting.
Any person who refuses or willfully neglects to obey the curfew order in effect in any evacuation order zone or evacuation warning zone within the city of Los Angeles will be physically booked for a violation of California Government Code Section 8665.
Well, I'm appreciative that it's the police chief up here talking, and it's only LAPD here. Where's Karen Bass? Where's Chief Crowley? Are they in a little tiff?
A violation of the curfew order is a misdemeanor punishable by a fine not to exceed $1,000 or by imprisonment not to exceed 6 months or both. This countywide curfew order is enforceable in the city of Los Angeles by LAPD officers. Enforcing a curfew is an important tool that will help keep the burn areas and the evacuated properties secure, keeping looters out. This effort also helps protect public.
It's so irritating how, we're dealing with unprecedented devastation and government incompetence, but the police have to worry about not only keeping people out of dangerous zones, but all of the monsters that are out there stealing from the evacuated homes. On top of that, and we didn't get enough time to cover this, but some idiot flew a drone that crashed into the Super Scooper yesterday. Put a big hole in the wing. We have 2 Super Scoopers. Now we only have 1 until Monday, severely handicapping our fire response. Well, we're going to continue on this. Hopefully things calm down over the weekend. We know Monday is supposed to be another very windy day, and we're going to hope for the best. But if the worst happens, we will be sure to cover it and give you the most accurate information that we can, because that's our job. Have a wonderful weekend out there. Try to stay safe, everyone. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC.